So this week we have section 12, which is related to section 11 in that Excel is used to calculate some of the answers. Consider the example below about a saving for retirement for a job. Okay. Number one, Johnny has a job that earns $4,000 gross pay each month. The taxes are 20% and he contributes $200 towards his retirement. If his job matches 30% contribution, answer the following questions. All right. There's a whole lot in that prompt, but we probably need to understand all of it. Okay, this person, Johnny, is making $4,000 a month. They pay 20% down or 20% in taxes, and they want to contribute $200 towards their retirement. When we were doing home loans, that was like our rent. Remember, if we're already paying $800 rent, well, how much can we afford in a loan? That's what's going on here. They're putting $200 down each time. And the tricky thing with this section is, well, it's great for Johnny, but the company is going to contribute 30%. Okay, so the company is contributing 30% to their account. Great. All right. So how much is his take-home pay after the contribution and taxes? Okay. Here's something I really need to stress, and hopefully I'll do a good job of it. We take the money out before taxes. Okay. So we're going to take the contribution out before taxes. Okay, that's really important, and that really helps Johnny, and that's the way it works in real life. Okay, so we're going to contribute the $200 out of the $4,000 first before we do taxes. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. And that will not be, those would not be equivalent. If I did it the other way, it's non-commutative, it wouldn't work. Okay, so let's do that. So we have $4,000, and we're going to take 200 away. And what does that give me? 38. Is that right? Yeah, 40 minus 2 is 38. So this is 3,800. Okay, now they have 3,800. Great. This is really their take home. That's their take home. Well, I'm sorry. I'm misspeaking all over the place. We took the $200 out for their retirement program. Now we're going to tax Johnny. Johnny gets taxed 20%. So I ask you, if Johnny gets taxed 20%, then what percentage is the take home? Okay. 20% goes to taxes. So would you agree that 80% is the take home? So I'm going to multiply that by 80. Okay. So I think after all is said and done, it's 3,040 is the take home. Okay. That's take home. Let me say that again. All right. We have $4,000 a month. We're being taxed 20%. We're putting $200 towards the retirement, and the company's matching 30%. So far, we haven't needed that piece of information for part A. Part A is how much is the take home. All right. We contribute to the retirement program before we pay taxes. Okay. So to do that, I take whatever the monthly income is. In this case, it's $4,000. We're going to contribute $200 before we're taxed. Okay. So this is the amount after we've contributed. Now we're going to be taxed. Okay. So there's two ways you can calculate this. You could take 20% of that number and then subtract it from 3,800, or just from our percentage knowledge, I can multiply that by 80%, and this is the take-home pay. That's the take-home pay. Okay. That is a pretty important first problem. Is there any questions, comments, or concerns about what I did? Why did I multiply by 0.8? Why did I subtract by 200? How did I know to do that? Why didn't I use 30%? Any questions like that? Does anyone have, I mean, don't hesitate to ask, okay? How much will Johnny contribute after 30 years? How much will the employer contribute? Okay. So how much will Johnny contribute? Well, Johnny is planning to do $200 for, and that's per month, for 30 years. So that's how much Johnny will contribute. $200, 12 months in a year, 30 years. Okay, so this is how much Johnny is putting down. 200 times 12 times 30 years. $72,000. Okay, that's how much Johnny's putting in. Maybe I'll put a J for Johnny's contribution. Okay. How much will the employer contribute? Okay, this is the first time in this question that I'm concerned with how the company is contributing. They're contributing 30% of what Johnny is doing. Okay, so how much would that be? Well, that would be 30% of 200. So I can go 0.3 times 200, and that's $60 times 12 times 30. Okay. 12 months in a year, 30 years, and that's 21,600 that they are contributing over the 30 years. Okay. Okay. So we have how much Johnny has put into the account, how much the company has put into the account. And of course, if we added those together, that would be the total that was put into the account. Okay. But it didn't ask that, but if it did, that's what it would be. All right.
Excuse me, do you mind to explain where you got the 60 from for the company again?
Absolutely. So let me take it away. So the company contributes 30% of Johnny's contribution. Johnny's contribution is $20 or $200. Okay. So the company is doing 30%. So it's 30% of 200. Okay. 0.3 times 200 is $60. Okay. So they're doing 60 times 12 times 30, and that would be their total contribution. So that is 21,600. Okay. Does that help, Michaela? Did that clear things up? Or
Yes, it
I've
did.
tripped
Thank
over my own words before, so thank you for asking. Write a ratio that represents the company's contribution to the total amount invested. Okay. So it's not to Johnny's, which is what I thought the sentence was going to say. It's total invested. All right. Well, what did they contribute? They contributed 21,600 over the total. Okay. So that's 21,600 plus 72,000. There we go. Okay, now I think that's 93,600. I got to be careful with my zeros there. So I think that's 21,600 over 7 and 2 is 9. 9 or 1 and 2 is 3, and 600 in the hundreds place. So I think that'll do it. Now we can find that ratio. 21,600 over 93. 23. Let's just, for our discussion, let's just call it 23%. Okay. Now, what I want to point out is that that is not 30%. Why is that not 30%? Because the denominator is larger than just the 30%. 60 over 200 is 30%, but this is over the total contribution. Okay, so we're adding that together. So it actually kind of lowers it there. So this is not 30%. Just want to make sure that that's clear. Okay, how did I calculate that? It just said write a ratio that represents the company's contribution to the total amount invested. All right, just for funsies, let's see. Now I did over the total life of the loan. Would that be the same if I did it per month? Well, let's find out. So they're contributing $60 per month, and then that's 60 plus 200, 60 over 260. What is that? 60 over 260 is the same number. Okay, so I really can calculate it either way. It's the same 23%. I'm sorry the notes are so cramped and ugly, but hopefully the point stays that it's the same 23%. So they really could have asked me in either way, or I could have calculated it in either way, or even more than just math class. It is true. Okay.
So I have a question. So the original question says to write the ratio instead of first solving it. That being said, anytime in the future that it asks for a ratio, are we expected to solve it in this manner?
So going back to ratio section 2, we had at least 4 different ways we could write a ratio. So are you asking me like if this was on an exam, or if you're asking what are
Yeah,
you
I
asking?
guess if it was on an exam, I guess the reason why I'm clarifying is just because in the original question, it just says to write a ratio instead of solve for a percentage, which it obviously makes sense because that's how you solve for the percentage.
Mhm.
But it doesn't say to find the percentage, it just says write a ratio. So I just wanted to make sure that for later, just for later situations, if
We could
so
we
the
could
answer, I would
also
have to solve for the 23% instead of the writing out 2160 600 over 93
so we
600.
could also write this as 60 over 260, or we could reduce that fraction, and that would also be the ratio. Does that help?
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if, like, for the answer, I just wasn't sure if it was expecting like the percentage or if we should just write out the numbers over each other.
Okay. So maybe it's just that I'm being a bad, like I'm not being a good teacher. The reason why I brought up the percentage instead of just the ratio, which I mean, you're absolutely correct. It's asking for the ratio. The reason why I brought up the percentage was that I was trying to show the class that it's not 30%. So that's why I brought up the percentage. But I would agree with you that the question doesn't ask for the percentage. It asks for the ratio, which you can write a ratio as a percentage if the denominator is the total, which I did. But I wanted to bring it up because I wanted to show it's not 30%, it's 23%, which is a little counterintuitive because we took 30% out of the contribution. So some of it is just, I was doing that for teacher reasons. I wanted to show that those are not the same.
But when
What I
you
wanted to show was that it's not 30%.
but when you take what he contributed the 72,000, and you divide it by 93,600, you come up with 77%.
Hmm.
So if you take the 23% divided by 77%, you get 30%. So
Yeah.
that would be 1/3. That'd be the ratio. One to three.
Well, 3 to 10 is what they're contributing. Is that I can't tell what you're asking. You're
Okay.
you're asking what is the ratio?
No, you took 21,600 and divided it by 93,600,
Yes,
and you
I
got
did.
23%.
I did. Hmm.
Okay, well, if you take what Johnny did and take the 72,000 and divide it by 93,600, you get 77%.
Right.
Well, that together adds up to 100%.
Correct.
So if you take the 23% that the company contributed and Johnny's 77%, and you divide the 23% by 77%, you get 30%.
30%. Yes.
So out of that 30%, how do you write a ratio for that? 1 to 3?
Well, their contribution is $60 over $200. That would be the 30%. Is
Right,
that what
but
you're asking me?
no, if you take 77%
Yes.
and divide 23% by 77%, you get 30%.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you have 30%, how do you write a ratio? 1 to 3?
3 over 10.
3 over 10.
So 1/3 is 33%. 3 over 10 is 30%. They contributed 30%. Does that answer the question? Is that right?
Well, I don't see how you got 3 over 10.
How are you? I think you asked me, how do I write 30% as a reduced fraction? 3 over 10?
Well, no, okay.
You 1/3 is 33%. Well, it's 3 repeating. 33.33%. The original question was write a ratio that represents the company's contribution to the total amount invested. So I have 60 over 260, or I have 21,600 over 93,600. I brought up the percentage just because I wanted to show that it wasn't 30%, not 30%, not 30%, not 3 over 10. Peyton is confused.
Yeah, me too. Because if you take 100% minus 23%, that comes 77%,
Yes, I agree.
which is what Johnny contributed was 77%.
It seems like we are what's going on here? So it seems like we're starting to not solve the problem anymore. We're just doing like circular logic of you're solving for this, which is what we're not solving for, because we're asked what is the ratio of the company's contribution to the total amount invested. The only reason I brought up 23% was just to show you that it wasn't 30%. Which is also not 1/3.
Okay.
Let me start over and see where it is. Now, obviously I'm the dumbest person in the class. That's clear. But let's see where I got lost. Okay. Let's see what happened, because something is happening in the chat and in the discussion that I can't seem to parse out. So the
For
question,
me, I was fine up until Joseph started asking about the in-depth part of the percentage and things like that. Everything was perfectly fine on your end.
okay.
And then
Well, no, because I did someone
we
else.
got
asked the
deep
question.
into
That's the
the,
same thing I agree with as well, as I understood what you were saying until Joseph started kind of taking it to different what ifs.
Well, Michaela also had a question too. Like, why am I bringing that percentage? And I don't think I set it up correct. So I think the fault is on mine. But let's see. Okay, let's start over. Let's see if I can figure this out. So write a ratio that represents the company's contribution to the total amount invested. Okay. Well, per month, the company's contribution is $60. We went over that a couple times. That was 30% of 200. Johnny's putting $200 in, 30% company's contribution is $60. Okay. So 60 plus 200 is going into the account each month. That's 60 over 260. Okay. So that's the ratio, or we could write that as 6 over 26. It's another way we could write it. Or 3 over 13. That's another way we could write it. Okay. I think I did the math right. All right. So that would be per month that's going on. Now, earlier I tried to show that that would be true even over the entire 30-year span. Okay. So the company contributes $21,600 per year. Okay. 21,600. I'm sorry, I think I said per year. This is over 30 years. So over the span of the retirement program, they have contributed this. Okay. Well, 72,000 is what Johnny contributes. Okay. 21,600. And that is 93,600. Okay, so there is the ratio for the entire span of the 30 years. And I claim that that is the same. It is the same ratio. Okay. 23, and I'm going to say it again, it's 23%, not 30%. It's not 30%. Okay. Not 30%. Or not 3 out of 10. It is not that. Okay.
yeah, I think we were all good up until this like point right here, until we got into the fact of turning it into a percentage and going a little more in depth with the percentage side of it.
Mhm. Well, I mean, the path to hell is paved with good intentions. My intention was just to show that it wasn't 30%, but I think maybe I was so fixated on showing that I led the class the wrong way. So I do apologize for that. I certainly did not mean to make it more complicated than it is. So I apologize if I stumbled in that way. Okay.
Okay, so 3/13 is a ratio.
Yes.
Okay, well, to me,
And
it
will
would
we,
be 3.13.
Oh, yeah. So we could write that as 3 to 13. We could write it at 3 to 13.
See, that's
We could also
what
write
I
it as a
know.
decimal.
Yeah, that's what I know as a ratio as.
Yeah. So the first week of class, we went over ratios and we went over all the different ways that we could write it. We could write it as a decimal. We could write it 3 to 13. We could write it literally 3 to 13. And then later we learned percentages. And since this is over the total part to whole, we can write it as a percentage, right? So that's all things we've learned.
Okay,
Yep. Okay.
I'm fine now.
Okay, good. I appreciate, it's always confusing, and some of it's just because we're on Zoom, but it's good that we get these things hammered out so you don't have to do this on your own. All right.
on
So,
the exam, will it ask us to put it into ratio form?
I mean, it might ask you what's the ratio. It might ask you what the percentage is. It might ask you, yeah, I think it would be okay to ask you the ratio. It might be a multiple choice question. I could see that. I could see it being a multiple choice question. I think it was Peyton that asked that question. Is that
Yes, it was.
okay? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so again, we'll study the exam next week. So next week we'll review for the exam. Okay, but even with all that, even though I'm a bad teacher, it's still not 30%. Okay, so watch out for that. All right.
You're definitely not a bad teacher.
Well, we'll see. Okay, so here's the issue with just like the loan and the payments, we're not going to calculate the future value. Because we get interest and then we get interest on interest and then you get interest on interest on interest, which is great for your retirement program. And it's terrible for us mathematicians because it makes the math harder, but it's great for the account. So, we're going to use a spreadsheet program to calculate that. You can also use, one of those big fat graphing calculators. They do it too, but in this class we use Excel. So, and that's fine. That's more realistic to what people use now. So, find the total in the retirement account for Johnny after 30 years with an APR of 6.55%. Okay, so I'm going to use the FV function, future value. That's the retirement program. Johnny has been offered a 6.55%. Him and his company will contribute monthly. And that is for 30 years. Okay. And how much are they putting into the account? They are putting in, I believe, $260. Johnny's putting in 200, company's putting in $60. That comes to a total of $260 per month. Now, the difference between what we'll calculate here and what we've calculated previously is that this is going to acquire interest and it's going to acquire it monthly. And even that interest will acquire interest, which is great for Johnny. So, assuming that he likes to buy goods and services. So 6.55% divided by 12 by 30 and then $260 each month. Okay, how did I know it was the FV function? Because I'm doing a retirement program. So that's future value. They gave me the APR. I divided it by 12. This is for 30 years, so 12 by 30. And we're putting in $260 each month. So you can see in a blink of an eye, not even a blink of an eye, my laptop has found that there's $290,416.73 in the account. Right. But what did they contribute? Originally, they only contributed 93,600. So that's what they put in, even with the company's contribution. This is what is in the account after all that. So that's great. How much interest was earned in the account after the 30 years? Okay, well, the input of the account was 93,600. Okay. This is what's coming in. This is the output of the account with the interest. So to find interest, just like with home loans, we subtract. So we're going to subtract 290.73 minus the total contribution, which is 93,600. Okay, that will give us what the interest was. Okay, so 290,416.73 minus 93,600. Okay, that's what I think is just the interest. Just the interest on the account. Okay. Here's some statements I never made. Now, of course, that's monthly. All right. It'll always be monthly. So just like mortgages, I can't remember who, somebody asked that question last week. Maybe it was Michaela, maybe it was Peyton, I can't remember, but maybe it was Ashley. But somebody asked, is it always monthly? And mortgages are always monthly. And 401k plans or retirement programs, they're also always monthly. So we don't have to worry about this daily or quarterly, anything like that. We can just go straight to it's monthly. Okay. How much more was in the account than what Johnny deposited? Oh my gosh. Well, there's quite a bit more. So this is the total in the account after the 30 years. And then how much did just Johnny contribute? 72,000. Okay. 290,416.73 minus 72,000. Wow. That's great. All right. Great. And even the question is saying that's different than the previous answer. Well, of course it is, because you asked a different question. So of course it's different. Okay. Consider the following $400 contribution with an APR of 3.85, 45 years. Find the amount in the account after 45 years. All right, well, to do that, I'm going to need to use the FV function, 3.85% divided by 12. I saw many people on the discussion say that they just translate that to a decimal, and that is 100% accurate. You are more than welcome to contribute or to convert that to a decimal by yourself if you like. 45 years, and there's 12 years in the month, and we're putting $400 in the account. Okay, so let's do it. This is the part I need Excel. So future value, we have 3.85% divided by 12, 12 by 45, and we're going to take $400 out. This should tell me what's in the account after 45 years. And what do we see? We see that it's $578, 382.87. So $578,382.87. How much has the person deposited in the account total? Well, they $400 a month, 12 months a year. 45 years should do it. Okay, so 400 times 12 times 45. They contributed $216,000. How much interest has been accumulated? Okay, well, interest always means I find the difference. So I need to subtract. So that's what I'm going to do. 382.87 minus their contribution. I'm finding $362,383.87. How much interest is in the account with an APR of 3.99 for 42 years if Melinda deposited $375 each month? Okay, now we're starting to just get into the same question over and over. It's really just the same thing. The only thing that can really mess things up is if we have to start dealing with taxes. That really confuses the matter. Other than that, it's pretty much the same problem over and over again. 42 years, and we're putting in $375. Okay, so easy stuff. The only thing is I need to use a spreadsheet program, calculate it. Okay. Let me double check that. I think I inputted that right. 399 divided by 12, 12 by 42, 375. Okay. So in the account, I believe it'll be 488,146.87. Okay. All right. Calculate the profit of Kurt's retirement account. We haven't really talked about profit. So that's something we need to do. Now, in a way, we've talked about profit, but we've never called it that. I think that would be the same as this question. How much more was in the account than what Johnny deposited? Technically, that's what profit is. If we subtract what the cost was versus what we got out of the account, that would be profit. Of course, as long as that was a positive number. Okay, so calculate the profit of Kurt's retirement. Contributes $600 each month with an APR of 5.25%. Does this for 38 years, and the company matches 40%. That's great. Makes my math a little bit more complicated, but great for Kurt. Okay, so I'm going to find the total in the account first, and then we will subtract, or I'm going to subtract what Kurt has contributed. So future value, we have a APR of 4.25% divided by 12, 12 by 38 years. And then we need to decide, okay, how much is going into this account each month? Kurt is putting in $600. The company is contributing 40%, and I'm going to be a little sneaky. We talked about in the percent increase of the class. I'm going to have Excel do all of the work for me. I'll multiply that by 1.4, and it will do all of the arithmetic for me. Okay, that's amazing. So now,
Where it came from? I'm
what's
sorry.
that?
Can
Say it
you
again?
explain where the 1.4 came from? I'm sorry.
So 40% increase. So they're contributing 40%, $600. We could do 600 times 40 and then add that back to 600, or I can just go 600 times 1.4. That's 100% plus 40%, like we learned way back in section 3 or 4. Okay, so that's the total in the account. Now, what did Kurt put into the account? That was 600 by 12 by 38.
38.
Yeah, okay. let's see what that is. 600 by 12 by 38. I'm getting 273, 600. The difference of this total in the account minus what Kurt put in is the profit. Okay, profit. All right. So that's what I'm going to do. 3493.82. And there we go. There is my profit. Or not mine, Kurt's profit. So again, starting from the beginning, understanding the problem, what did we do? Calculate the profit of Kurt's retirement account. What's going to be the profit? That's going to be the total in the account minus what Kurt contributed himself. He contributes $600 each month. APR is for 5.25, 38 years, and the company's contributing 40%. So I was a little sneaky and I just had Excel do all of the work for me. 600 times 1.4 is what's going into the account each month. So I plugged that into Excel to find that right there. And I found over $1 million in the account, subtracted what Kurt put in himself, and that gives me the profit. And we did that before, but we didn't call it profit before. That was the difference there. So before we did find the profit, we just never called it profit. Okay.
You're
Number 5.
up above on C, you're $1 off.
On which
On C,
on C?
Yeah, you got 362, 383, 87. It should be 362, 382, 87. You're just $1 off.
Oh, here. $1 off. 578, 382, 87 minus 216. 362. Yeah, I wrote a 3 there. Okay, I don't know why I wrote a 3 there.
It's okay.
Yeah, for some reason I wrote a 3 there, so apologies. Okay. Okay, how much money should be in the retirement account if someone contributes $250 for 20 years? The bank has given them a rate of 2%. Okay, so I think this one's straightforward. So the FV is the retirement, 2%, divide by 12, 12 by 20, and the amount going into the account is $250 each month. So that should give us the amount in the account after this 20 years. Equals FV, 2% divided by 12, 12 by 20, minus $250. Okay, so I think there'd be $73,699.21. Okay. Easy stuff, right? Easy stuff.